Hello, and welcome to another episode of the B2B Leadership Podcast. My name is Nils Vinje, and today I'm talking about how do you get promoted to the vice president level. Now, the promotion to the VP level is a big one, and we're going to break it down. I'm going to show you some helpful strategies and tips and tricks if you are at the director or senior director level today, and the next promotion opportunity for you is to be promoted to vice president. Now, I've been through this myself in my rise from an individual contributor to a manager, to a director, to a VP. And there were very different skill sets and very different things I had to focus on all along the way. I've also helped my clients as a leadership coach for over 10 years get promoted from the director to the VP level. A couple quick examples here. I worked with Sarah for several years when she was a director, and she said Nils's coaching was a big reason that I was promoted recently to VP. It was wonderful. And then Christine was director when we started working together, got promoted to senior director, and then got promoted again to vice president at a different company. And she said, I would not be where I am today without Nils's coaching. I had to do the work, but I would not be where I am without Nils's coaching. And I really love what Christine drives home there is that the coaching process is so much more than me telling my clients what to do. That's not what it is at all. It's about me understanding where they are, giving them tools to help them build their confidence and build their strengths and build every element of their leadership so that they show up as the de facto choice for the next promotion. And both Sarah and Christine are incredible clients who always take action. Everything that we do together is all about taking action, and they're wonderful examples, and they've been rewarded with promotion. So that's what I want to share with you today is the possibility of what's out there. If you're at the director or senior director level and you're looking to get to the VP level, let's jump in. The first thing I want to call out is something I see all the time, and especially going from director to VP, but also in all levels of promotion, and that is some hesitation or fear. Now, you haven't done the next level role before, most times before you get promoted into it. And ultimately, this can cause a little bit of hesitation or even fear because you start to question, can you even do this? And sometimes you might even compare yourself to a fictitious VP who's perfect, or maybe somebody in your industry who's already been in the VP seat for years. And you think, I don't know if I could ever look like that, if I could ever operate like that. Maybe you even look at somebody else within your company and you see their incredible skill set and what they do and think, how am I going to measure up to that? Well, the goal is not to compare yourself to other people and not to compare yourself to a fictitious VP. And the goal is to accept that you have not done this before, but you've likely done something similar. And what I mean is you've probably put yourself in a position previously where you didn't know how to do everything, but you ended up being successful anyways. Think about the last time you got promoted. Think about the last time you got hired for a new job. You didn't know how to do that new job before you got hired. So go back to those times and remember what it was like to put yourself in that position and recognize that what's really important is the fact that you have confidence that comes from a set of tools that you can use to address the challenges and problems that you will face in your leadership position. So even though you haven't been a VP yet, if you have tools that will support you in tackling any challenge that gets thrown to a VP, then you can be 100% confident in showing up knowing that if problems arise, which they will, you have the tools to help solve them. And that's a big part of what I do as a leadership coach, is empower my clients with the tools to confidently handle any situation. Because there's no possible way you will ever think about or know, or even know in advance what problems or challenges are going to arise tomorrow. So the goal is not to try to eliminate all the problems and challenges. The goal is to get better at identifying which tool do I need to use in order to address this particular challenge. And if you can do that, everything else becomes infinitely easier. And those were some of the examples that I was sharing with Sarah and Christine before. And they've done an incredible job of taking the tools that we've worked together through and then empowering themselves to be confident to handle any situation. The second thing I want to call out is that there is a difference between whether or not you're going to go for the VP promotion inside of your existing company today, or if it will be with a new company. And the third thing I want to call out is that there is also a difference between the level of maturity of the organization that you are joining. If you're joining an early stage startup where the organization or the group you're going to be VP around does not exist, well, that means you're going to have to put in place an entire foundation versus joining an organization where the org already exists. And that means you're going to need to take over an existing function and then transform it to get it to perform at a higher level. So these are just a couple of the key differences and things I wanted to call out, and I'll do my best to make note of where there's differences in all the strategies and tactics and things we talk about going further around these differences and how you might approach them based on your specific situation. But again, your situation is going to be unique, and that's okay. That's wonderful. It should be. Nobody is a perfect carbon copy of anybody else. So what you're going through is 100% unique to you. However, there are tools and there are principles and there are things that I'm going to share with you that absolutely 100% apply to your specific and unique situation. There are some things that I consider table stakes when it comes to promotions, especially from director to VP level. And these are things that you should focus on all the time. So I'm going to cover these at a high level right now, and then we're going to dive deeper. So the first is to build and demonstrate your expertise. Now, if you're in a situation where inside of your company, you're working today and you want to get promoted to the VP level, you have a much greater responsibility to build and demonstrate your expertise because you have firsthand knowledge and you have been working inside your solution. Now, this could mean and look like taking on new challenges, new initiatives, cross-functional relationship building, doing all kinds of things to broaden your horizon and understand how other people's worlds inside your organization works. Your expertise will grow as a result. Now, if you're on the outside and interviewing for a VP job in another company, you're not going to have that same opportunity. So you have to focus more on your expertise from the industry perspective, number one, and number two, then your specific discipline or domain perspective. So if I was a sales leader, I would focus on the industry that I was looking to become the VP at, that company, and go deep on that. And then if I was a customer success leader, I would focus on that and then the customer success expertise. So it's really important to always remember that you have to build and demonstrate your expertise. There's a great story from Jack Welch. He was a longtime CEO of General Electric, one of the most successful CEOs in American company history. And when he was actually an individual contributor, there was a story about how he was part of a group that was asked to do a research-based project and then provide a report. And it was all around plastics, which was the particular part of GE he worked in at the time. And everybody did their presentation, and it was pretty standard. It was about, costs and opportunity and market size and all those things. And Jack Welch took a totally different perspective. He looked at it from a big, broad, much bigger than what was asked perspective. And he told a completely different story. So he demonstrated his expertise in the plastics industry way beyond just the niche market that GE was focused on at the time, and that earned him significant recognition. So building your expertise and demonstrating incredibly important. Number two is demonstrating leadership skills. That's basically what the core of this whole episode is all about, and the core of what me and the B2B Leaders Academy do on a daily and weekly and monthly basis. It's all about leadership skills. The only reason you're going to get from director level to VP level and be successful is because of the quality of your leadership skills. If you do not focus on growing and acquiring new leadership skills, you're going to do the same things you did before, and you're not going to get the same result. You're going to fail. It's happened time and again. Don't let it happen to you. Get help, build leadership skills, and demonstrate them within your organization, or be ready to tell some incredible stories about how you demonstrated them to your prospective employer. Number three, communicate your goals and aspirations. This is specific to the inside of your company progression to VP. If you want to get to that level and there's going to be an opportunity, you need to make it known. Nobody's going to assume or just know that you want to be VP. If you want to get there, you have to make it clear. Number four, network and build relationships. The number one time to need to build a relationship is not when you need one. It's when you don't need one. And building relationships across your organization with other leaders is a long-term game. Because here's the reality of when a VP level promotion is up for grabs. That person or group that is responsible for identifying the candidates will ask other leaders throughout the organization for their opinions on the candidates. And if they don't know anything about you or your capabilities or your expertise, and they have no idea what you do, they can't tell your story. Whereas if you have a great relationship with them, if you've spent the time to build that, if you've helped them get what they want, and they have in turn helped you get what you want, they will be able to tell a much different story. And then the last one, number 5, is to seek feedback and just be open to constructive criticism. We're all improving. We can all improve no matter what, myself included, my clients included. Every member of the B2B Leaders Academy accepts this and kind of lives it every single day. The only way we're going to get what we want in the future is if we accept that we don't have all the skills and tools we need today, and that somebody else does, and we can get some help and we can move forward from here. But these are just 5 key things. And like I said, these are table stakes. You got to do these regardless, but they are going to play a very important role. And regardless of if you think the VP promotion is within the next 6 months or the next 16 months or the next 24 months, you should be thinking about every single one of these and what I'm going to cover next, because that is how long it takes to sometimes build some of these skills. So leadership is a long-term game, getting promoted is a long-term game, and you got to have that long-term view if you're going to be successful. I'm going to use the 4 pillars of leadership framework to walk through the things that you must do in order to get promoted to the VP level. And the 4 pillars of leadership are leading yourself. This has everything to do with what you control. Leading others. This has everything to do with your team. Leading with communication. This has everything to do with communicating your value and your team's value beyond just your team. And then leading with metrics, which has everything to do with how to measure performance and ultimately drive it. So these 4 pillars are going to form the structure of how to look at what you need to do in order to get to the VP level. And this is different from what made you successful at the director level. So let's start with the leading yourself pillar. First up, it always comes back to psychology. Your leadership psychology must be incredibly strong. And as I mentioned before, you don't have to have done the job of being a VP before being confident to apply or even go through the interview process for the VP role. In fact, you shouldn't be doing the job as a VP. If you're doing the job and you're not getting paid for it, that's a red flag. But your psychology is what's going to determine whether or not you feel comfortable taking the next step. And as I mentioned before, there can be a lot of hesitation and a lot of angst and a lot of anxiety and a lot of uncertainty and a lot of fear around doing something, especially as big as a VP role if you've never actually done it before. But remember, you got to go back to what you are naturally talented to do. And if you don't know what that is, I can help you discover that. It's a relatively straightforward process that I take my clients and every member of the B2B Leaders Academy through. And when you understand what you are most talented to do, you will build a tremendous amount of confidence, and you will know where you are going to excel and where you are going to struggle. Now, I found this out the hard way after I was a VP. And so part of this, exercise in this episode is sharing some of the lessons learned that I had to go through while on the job. I actually got into the VP role and I didn't know what I was naturally talented to do. And it hit me like a ton of bricks when I was presented with a challenge I didn't know how to solve. The whole detail of that story I'm going to save for another episode because it's in depth and it was intense, but it taught me so much about where I should be focusing my time, my effort, my energy, and how I should best be using the resources around me in order to accomplish what I have to do. So in order to get to the VP level from director, you need incredible leadership psychology. And remember, you have to believe that you can do this, and you can believe that you can do this if you have the right set of leadership tools to support you in handling any situation with confidence. Now, the next area is really about your time. And we all are strapped for time. I would be willing to bet that you listening to this podcast, maybe you're listening to this on the weekend or while doing something else, but if I asked you, do you have an abundance of time? The answer would probably be no. But if you go into a VP role and you're still strapped for time, basically what this ends up looking like is a small brush fire that existed when you were at the director level, and then you get into the VP level and that turns into a giant forest fire. The reason for this is there's just many more demands on you and your time and everything you have to do with your organization than there were at the director level. You are responsible for more. So small imperfections in how you master your time are going to be magnified at the VP level. So you need to master your time, and you have to have everything in place at the director level, because then you can have the utmost confidence that you can run the same system at the VP level. Now, the last piece is really around the systems that need to be in place for you and your directors, whether they exist today or these are people you're going to hire in the future, whatever stage of company you're at. The systems are what is going to set you free. Your demands on your time and your expertise and your attention are going to be greater than they ever have been before. And you have to have systems in place to support the directors that work for you, because they will be supporting the managers that work for them, and they will be supporting the individual contributors that work for them, right? In a traditional sense, that's what we have: VPs, directors, managers, individual contributors. Now, if you don't have systems in place, it's going to be similar to what we talked about on the time area. This small little brush fire is going to turn into a giant forest fire, and things will get out of control very, very quickly. And you'll get to the end of the day, and you will know that you were incredibly busy, but you will not be 100% certain about what you actually got done. And I'm saying this from 100% experience, because I've been there. It took me, after going through the VP experience, to learn all these things. And that's the best part about being in the position that I'm in today, is that I can help you, whether you're in a director or senior director position, sidestep all the things that I had to learn once I got into the VP role, and caused me to seriously question whether or not I was even fit for the role. And again, the imposter syndrome was big, but this is how you overcome it. This is how you confidently step into that place in the future where you've never been before, and know that you can make a significant difference. So quick recap on the leading yourself area. What we need to focus on is making your leadership psychology incredibly strong to the point of it being bulletproof, mastering your time, and building systems for you and your directors, because that's ultimately what's going to set you free. If we do these things, then those small little brush fires can be put out with relative ease. We do not want them to turn into giant forest fires where now they're out of control, and we got to call in all kinds of resources and other help from surrounding counties and other fire stations to help us put out the blaze. The second pillar is leading others. And this is all about how you lead your team and ultimately your department, because at a VP level, you're going to be responsible for much more than just your individual team or a couple of teams. You're responsible for the department as a whole. So you must demonstrate an ability to bring teams and departments together under a unified vision. And unified vision looks different to everybody, and there's a core strategy in how I approach it that I teach inside the B2B Leaders Academy that ultimately centers around creating an identity that everyone has a hand in creating, but also being part of. And what it means is that people are part of something that is bigger than themselves. And anytime people are part of something that's bigger than themselves, that they believe in, you'll see tremendous results and a tremendous level of culture and camaraderie that comes together. I've worked with many, many clients over the last 10 years, helping to build identities for their organizations. And when we do go through this process, they come out with a very clear and very crisp definition of what it means to be part of this organization. And if you can drive everybody to the clarity of what it means to be part of this organization, you have the greatest chance of success of having them follow you, because they know what it means to be part of your team and your org. Think right now about your organization. If I ask you to describe what it means to be part of this team or this org, chances are you're not going to be able to give me very descriptive language. However, when you go through this process of building an identity, you have incredibly prescriptive and descriptive language that gets people out of bed in the mornings, because nobody gets out of bed to do a checklist or do a to-do list or tackle action items. But people absolutely 100% get out of bed to fulfill their role as part of something that is bigger than themselves. And that's what I mean when I'm talking about bringing teams and departments under a unified vision. Now, you're also going to be managing directors at the VP level. So now your directors are going to have managers beneath them. So you're going to need a different level of coaching skills than you had probably used prior. And your level of coaching skills needs to continuously increase because you should be spending more and more of your time coaching your leaders. And when I say coaching, I do not mean telling your leaders what to do. I mean helping them discover what they should do based on the situation and the objectives and the goals and all that good stuff. So you can't come to the table as the VP with all the answers. If you do, you will fail. And you will also fail the interview process. So this is a really important point, that your level of skill in the coaching area is probably one of the most important pieces that will set you up for success. Now, before you get into the VP role, it is really important that you do some skip levels, that you already are thinking about how to keep a pulse on the organization if you're going for the VP role within your current company. If you're doing it outside with a different company, of course, you're not going to have that level of access. But doing a skip level means talking one-on-one individually with the individuals who work for the people that work for you. So ultimately, this will help you understand what is going on the front lines and what are the things that are going on that you are not aware of. So quick recap here on the leading others piece. You have to demonstrate an ability to bring teams and departments together under a unified vision. You got to have a structure, you got to have an approach and a strategy for how to do this. You need to help your team solve bigger problems. They can only do that if they're aligned, and that's what a unified vision really does. You're going to be managing directors. So your level of skill in the coaching area is going to need to increase from wherever you are today. And you are never done in improving your coaching skills. I'm never done, and I've been a certified leadership coach for over 10 years. Just an example of how you can always focus on getting better and better and better at the coaching skills. And remember, coaching is not about telling people what to do. And then finally, keep a finger on the pulse of what is going on today. What don't you know that's happening inside your org? And use skip levels. Use conversations with people you don't normally talk to. Ask them for their opinions. Use a lot of open-ended questions. Be curious, because the more you surface the challenges and the issues from the people who are on the front lines doing the work, the better you can do at guiding your directors and ultimately partnering with them to help solve the problems that the organization is facing. Pillar 3 is leading with communication. And this is all about communicating your value and your team's value outside of your team. And team and organization go hand in hand here. So the most important thing you have to do is up-level your executive communication. And the single fastest way to do that is to build a framework and use it to communicate your value and your department's value in a different way than you have before. Everybody is guilty of assuming that other people have the same level of knowledge we do about our work. This is called the crisis of context. The reality is nobody else has the same level of context that you do, especially the people outside of your department. So if you are communicating at a very low level of detail, like you would with your team, but you're doing that with other leaders and other executives, you're going to miss the mark. They're not going to know what you are doing, and what level of communication you're at is going to determine what they really think about your capabilities as a leader. Because if they don't understand what you do, and they can't understand what you do, that will create doubt and uncertainty, allow it to creep in. And ultimately, you don't want to be on the receiving end of that, because the resounding response when they get asked about you as a leader, as a potential candidate for VP, they say, you know what, I don't think they're strategic enough. And that is the kiss of death right there. So if you can build a framework, then you can communicate appropriately based on the level of context that your audience has. And whether you're communicating to your C-level executives, your peer leaders, your managers and your directors, or your individuals in your department or across the company, you need to use a different level of communication in order to meet them where they are. And the framework is the best way to do that. Guess what? This whole episode is built around my leadership framework that I created called the 4 Pillars of Leadership. We're in pillar number 3 now, leading with communication. And this is an example of how a framework can be used. I set up the context in the very beginning and gave the brief high-level overview, and then we've been going a little bit deeper into each area. Now, I'm not going to get into all the specifics of how to do everything because we don't have time to do that. That's what we do in the B2B Leaders Academy. That's the lowest level of detail. I need to engage you at the level of context you have, which might be nothing. So I started at the very top, and then I systematically brought you with me down where you could understand a little bit more, and I provide some context. That is the power of a framework. The second key area in the leading with communication pillar is really being able to give a presentation that engages your audience every time. There are more than enough really boring business presentations that happen every single day. And to stand out and be different and be the one who's selected as the de facto choice for the VP role, whether it's inside your org or with another company, your presentation skills have to go up to another level. That is going to be a big part in setting you apart from everybody else and everyone else you're in competition with. It is a competition to get that seat because there are a number of people who will be considered and there will be one person chosen. And if you want to have the absolute best chance, you need to give and just all out incredible presentation that engages your audience, leaves them on the edge of their seat, and leaves them wanting more and like they would want to work with you. Now, the last key area is that every leader in the organization knows about you and your work. And this is specific more towards if you are going for the VP role inside your org. You need to do an incredible job of marketing your leadership because doing the job as a leader is not enough. You must tell the story about your work, and you have to do it in a very strategic and systematic way. And that's why this entire pillar is built to give you the tools in order to do that. And because your framework and your presentation skills, that's all part of your message that you get to market once you are ready. So leading with communication is going to be so critical to getting from the director to the VP level because it is going to force you to communicate at an executive level and a different level than you have before. And if you do not evolve your communication skills prior to getting to the VP level, you're going to get stuck in the interview cycle over and over and over again. And people will not know what you do. They're not going to know what you're capable of, and you will miss some significant opportunities. Now again, every single one of these tools has a plan behind it, and they're all available in the B2B Leaders Academy, and you can work with me, and I can be your coach, and I can help you build these tools so that you become the number one choice for that VP role. The fourth and final pillar we're going to look at is leading with metrics. Now, your department and everybody in your department must understand how their work directly relates to the goals of the company. And I don't just mean conceptually high level, I mean through metrics. And this involves team KPI scorecards, personal KPI scorecards, and ultimately being able to tell a story through data that everybody can understand. So it's not just about saying our retention is our goal and that's it, or our sales target is our goal and that's it, and stopping there. Or we have a problem with retention, go fix it. We have a problem with our sales number, it's down, go fix it. Those are terrible statements that just aren't going to win you any friends or any support inside your organization and are the hallmark of poor leadership skills. If you want to completely turn the table, you're going to have to look at how all the elements of measurement really apply to taking something from an activity that an individual does and drawing a straight line connection all the way up to the company level KPI. And that requires a skill. And this is why this is such an important piece, because if you miss this, you're going to be leading without a key element, which is the metrics piece. And we all love data. Everybody loves data. I love data. You love data. However, there's too much data. So focusing on the right data is what's going to be important. And that's more than just knowing that your boss said, this is your KPI, go fix it. That's only part of the story. If you're in a situation where you're getting questions regularly, or especially after town halls where the executive team is laying out the priorities for the company, and your members of your team or your department are asking, how does the work I do contribute to the bigger picture? Or how are we going to use data to improve our performance next quarter? Then you have some work to do in the leading with metrics pillar. And that's okay. Because like I said before, you're not going to know everything that you need to know to be successful in the VP role. But you do need the tools in order to confidently handle any situation. And when it comes to metrics, there are some very specific tools that we can use to put in place that will give you incredible visibility and give everybody in your department visibility they've never had before. When I've rolled this out with my clients, the response is astonishing. Everybody knows exactly how their work contributes, and they can see the entire cascading effect all the way from their daily work up to the company's organizational goals. It's truly phenomenal. We've covered how to get promoted to the VP level through the lens of the 4 pillars of leadership, because you need a framework in order to break down this big, giant topic of getting promoted to the VP and find out where to focus and what to do and what action to take next. It's not enough to just keep working hard and hope that you're going to be quote unquote recognized to be a VP. You need a specific strategy. And the strategy comes from breaking things down just like we've done here, and then acquiring tools in order to improve skills in each of these areas so that you are able to confidently handle any situation. That's exactly what I do inside the B2B Leaders Academy, and I would love to coach you if there's an opportunity. So if you listen to this and you have an interest in getting promoted to the VP level, reach out to me. Send me an email at nils@b2bleadersacademy.com. Tell me about your situation, and I'll tell you about how the B2B Leaders Academy can help you and how my coaching and content and community can all be used to make sure that you get to the VP level, just like Sarah and Christine's story that I shared earlier. Until next time, take care and have a wonderful rest of your day.